a rabbit hole I do want to go down is the doc. You guys know how much I love the doc. And Dr. Disrespect News. Lindsay, your reaction to the doc is Jeff's reaction to the chair reviews. Don't worry, we have a chair review for you guys. So both of you can give me an eye roll this episode.
Today with a big fan of you too.
And the doc in the news, the headline here, Dr. Disrespect eyeing 2-year break from YouTube to work on Midnight Society games. So the two-time is tempted to go all in on his new studio. This actually happened live on his stream. He was streaming, and he opened the broadcast. He was on PUBG. It says he found himself with nothing to play. Then he got on Call of Duty. He was complaining about Call of Duty, how it's horrible. And then he says, I was sitting in my command center thinking, what am I going to play? That's what the gaming industry is for me right now. I'm in one of those spells. So he's thinking of taking a break until early 2024 to focus on his game. I mean, I'll just say I gotta love this conviction if it's true. But what do you guys think of, the doc giving up a very lucrative streaming career to go focus on making his game? And is there any conclusions to be drawn about the state of game development, like that he sees that as maybe a bigger opportunity? Like what do you guys make of this? What conclusions do you draw from this? Jeff, you have thoughts?
Well, I guess first, to cover his broader point, I mean, I think Matthew kind of summed it up. He's not wrong that the gaming industry is in a little bit of a spell where there's not many big games that have come out. So that's correct. I mean, we're seeing that in the data, the numbers, some of the revenue numbers, and just big game launches are down this year. I think it's really a product of the console cycle and then also the hangover from COVID. I mean, games that were already being made for COVID kind of came out, and things that started up during COVID have just taken longer because there was work from home, people were distracted. Just in general, I think that's true. To get specific to the doc, I don't believe him, and I think if he does do this, it would be incredibly dumb, because the really only selling point that this game has is him. So if he stops streaming for 3 years and builds a mediocre video game and then comes out 3 years from now and is like, hey guys, remember me? I'm the guy that used to be a famous YouTuber. Come buy my video game. It's like he's killing his golden goose, which is him and his personality and his ability to market. Like that's the whole value proposition his studio has, is that he can market the game because he has his following. So why would he get rid of that?
That is an interesting take. It's a great take.
Hot take for sure. Not to mention the existing sponsors that he's going to have to cancel for next year. I always like to liken these things to other forms of entertainment and see how they were done. And typically I go to music because that's my background. You see a lot of artists that say this is my last album ever and then I'm retiring, just to get hype on that album for that month or to get hype on the next album when they inevitably come out of retirement. Jay-Z, I think, was pretty famous for doing that with the Black Album, which was, some people think his best. This isn't a music show, so I won't get into it, but it's a common PR stunt and move to get attention. And it works in music, but that's because in music, you need that downtime anyways to create, to think, to decompress. Streaming is altogether different because it requires day-to-day content. It requires day-to-day fan engagement. That's one of the things I think that advertisers and sponsors love about being in this space, is that they get that tangible relationship with the audience in real time. And that's something that the doc offers with that brand loyalty that he's developed and created. So it's a very risky thing for him to just walk away from that temporarily, because this is such a competitive space. There's no guarantee when you come back that people are still going to want to watch you and that they haven't moved on as someone that they resonate more with. Who I think there were some former TSM gamers, wasn't it like Daquan and a few others that had done that not too long ago. I haven't seen the stats on their numbers on if that was successful or not for them. But to Jeff's point, you have something that's risky already, that's compounded now by an additional marketing vehicle and business that you've created completely based off of your ability to influence that same audience to what you say and ask them to do on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if this is just a PR stunt and a short thing for 3 to 6 months, but at the end of the day, he's not wrong. I mean, there's not a lot of great things to play right now. So that thing is the one thing that I do agree with. I just don't know if this is your career and your brand, if this is the right move for you. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, you got to love the storyline that Doc saves the gaming industry. That's just like, that is a cool storyline should it come to pass. What's interesting is history has sort of proven that streaming audiences don't transfer platform to platform, right? They drop off when you move platform to platform. What I don't think is conclusive, historically at least, is do audiences transfer over time? In other words, meaning like, because the Doc was banned, if you remember, I don't even remember how long he was away from his stream. It was 6 months, something like that, maybe longer. It might have been longer, but it was months at least. And I think his biggest stream ever was his comeback stream, right? Like, was the stream that his first stream back. The question is, if you disappear for a year or two, does your entire audience come back after a year or two?
It's too long.
That's too long. Yeah,
I think you're right. If it was like he did this 3 months, if it was like, all right, last quarter we're pushing to launch, like I'm heads down, like he could do it. But 3 years, 2 years, like that.
Way too long.
Who's going to remember Doc 3 years from now if he's not streaming?
I mean, this could be just a big stunt. Like Doc's coming back to play the only game worth playing, his, right? and that's kind of, so maybe it's a temporary hiatus just until he launches his game. I'm not sure.
Matt says it feels like the gaming industry is in one of those spells, not just the Doc. Look, guys, I called this. I'm like real Oracle kind of stuff. I said this is where things were leading. Matt says I couldn't agree with Jeff more. If the game isn't a success, he can always use the "I was distracted with streaming" excuse. This would actually put more pressure on him in Midnight Society, I think. I mean, assuming people remember him when he comes back, right? I think the crux of Jeff's point is no one will care when he comes back. Progent says, I think everyone's in that spell right now. I agree with Jeff. Him leaving can help and hurt the game, depending on how the game is delivered. There's a lot of promises this game is trying to deliver. Do you guys really think that if he puts a tweet out a year and a half from now, a lot of people aren't going to notice, right? Like if you don't think he will still have some of the power of his audience?
Well, but it's a question of how much too, because of course he'll have some of the power, but how much?
But meaning,
it's also like Paul, you also have to remember, what if he can keep? You have to compare it to what the alternative is, right? Like if he kept building his stream and then put out a tweet, "Hey, I'm about to play my new game. Come join my stream." He's going to get 1 million people. Will he get more than that if he stops streaming for a year?
Okay, let me just make the counterpoint, right? If he stops streaming for a year and his audience gets cut by half, let's say, or even more, by 80%, okay? When he comes back, he still has 20% of his audience, right? If the game is good, that 20% is the only priming of the pump you need, right? If the game's really good, that 20% is enough to sort of set off a chain reaction, I think, of virality to make the game a success. If the game is no good, right, it doesn't matter if he has 20% of his audience or 100% of his audience, it won't make the game a success.
Yeah, but it would still give it a better chance if there's more, number one. Number two, he's giving up like $20 million in the meantime. Like, so why would he want it? Like, what's the benefit of having less people on the street, so less potential reach, and giving up money? Like, unless
he has to believe that the game
he needs time. Like, unless he's maybe actually very hands-on, it's like, look, I literally just don't have time to stream because I'm building the game, then I guess I could see that.
Yeah. Heffelmoke says, Dr. Disrespect is like Amaranth without a hot tub. He's business savvy. He can't quit streaming. I mean, you guys are on fire today with the comments. Amaranth without a hot tub. His game is a crap shot, budget too low, choice of partner strange. This is just bait memeing. I mean, look, I have high hopes for his game, guys. Like, he has, decent people in the room. And I like his choice of genre, right? I like where he's decided to go with the game. But all of you seem to agree that this is just him, like, this is just clever marketing from the doc, basically, is what I'm hearing from everybody. Adam says, I'm late. Adam, doesn't matter. We just happy you're here. Welcome. Alan says he's giving 6-week updates if you pre-order, right? That's a way to hear from the doc. You know, I don't know. Now that we know that the game is at least a couple years off, maybe pre-ordering isn't the best bet, because that's still a long time and a lot can change.
Who wants 6 weeks updates for 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, we build like one additional level. Okay, cool. We're kind of over this.
Yeah. Heflamoke says, it's not a question. We have tangible return numbers for influencers as well as numbers of game/platform swaps. There's a significant loss of audience. A year is an eternity. Again, I'm not debating, right? It's a fair point. No question he will lose audience. The question is, does the time off allow him to build a better game? And is the better game the greater success factor than the size of his audience? Right? That's the trade-off in my mind. Those are the levers. Heflamoke says a game doesn't publish with launch. It's a constant alpha, beta, launch, teasing, patching, marketing, etc. It's a full life cycle, full-time and hands-on job. This is also true. But the doc knows this, right? He used to work for Activision, so you know he's familiar, I think, with the ins and outs of that industry. Progent says, honestly, now that I think about it, I followed a YouTuber way back named Frankie on PC. He randomly just stopped uploading for six-ish years ago, with about 2 million views on that last video. He came back about 6 months ago with the same views. So who knows, it could still work. Wow. I mean, I would think, you guys not think that's probably an outlier, right? That's probably not the...
It's just a way different platform. Like building up a YouTube audience in that way is completely different than building up a live streaming audience.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like if we stop streaming even for a few weeks, I think we would lose significant numbers. It's just the reality. People expect content.